Hello, welcome or welcome back. My name is Ashley. My channel is called Of Olive Oil and Honey. And if you're new here, welcome to my little corner on this YouTube platform. Today, I really wanted to share a little movie review on The Forge, which was recently released this last weekend, and also a little bit on the evangelism event that I went to last week, which I mentioned in my last video. So before we hop in, I wanted to share a Bible verse, Matthew 28:19. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. So I shared that Bible verse. Well, you'll see. I wanted to tie it into both the evangelism event and then the movie as well. So last weekend, August 24th, my church, in partnership with another ministry, headed out to the coast. And well, not myself, but the people that were baptizing people baptized over 200 people. So somewhere between like 200 and maybe like 260. It was awesome. I've been involved with this ministry for a couple of years now, and they hire me to take pictures of the events. And so it's always just a blessing being able to just share that experience with the people that are getting baptized, just capturing those special moments, and just seeing God move and work in those people's lives. And sometimes they'll do this segment where they'll have people share their testimonies. That's probably my favorite part. I love hearing how God works in other people's lives. But there were a couple of baptisms that, as I was going around taking pictures, that really just stood out to me and touched my heart. There was actually maybe three, but one or two, the minister would, before they would dunk them, they would be ministering to them, just speaking life into them. And you could just see they were getting touched by the Holy Spirit. And then, they were baptized, and just seeing them come up just so excited. And it's like they're just a newborn almost. It's so beautiful. And there was one in particular, this was actually toward the end, where I think this young man was waiting for most of the crowd to kind of clear out, because he waited toward the end. He was in a wheelchair, and two men had gone to pick him up from the wheelchair to baptize him. And I was talking to someone, I turned to my left, and I was like, this reminds me of the story in Mark where the friends bring their paralyzed friend for Jesus to heal. And so, man, just seeing him get baptized, and then I'll share the picture, like when he comes up, he just has this huge smile on his face. It was beautiful. It was really beautiful. And so, just keep those people in your prayers, that they get plugged into a doctrinally sound church, that God is just surrounding them with people that will really just disciple them and just guide them along this journey. Because I remember when I first got baptized, my pastor at the time was like, hey, by the way, you just got baptized. He didn't tell me this in particular. He was telling the entire congregation. But like, don't think that life gets super easy from here. Like, this is where actually Satan comes and tries to tempt you to make you change your mind. So definitely keep those people in your prayers. And as well as this ministry, because I can only imagine the amount of spiritual warfare that they go through just doing these types of events. And so, yeah, that was it on that. So that was like earlier in the day on the 24th. Later that evening, my mom and I went to go see The Forge. And so this was a movie that was written, I think they wrote it. I know they produced it, but they probably wrote it too, by the Kendrick brothers. And if you saw my previous, my movie series, Christian movie series, you know that I love the Kendrick brothers and everything that they put out, basically. So they are behind this movie. It released August 23rd, so it was last Friday. And it did fairly well. It's actually technically a spinoff from War Room. War Room came out in 2015, and I think it opened with like 11 million. This one opened with like 6 million, something like 6.6. I think that was the exact number. So it didn't do as well in box office, but I'll save that for later. Okay. I was gonna share my concluding view, but I think I'll save that. So as you're watching this, like, you'll see some familiar faces. You have, of course, Priscilla Shire. You have Cameron Arnett. I think that's his name. He was in Overcomer, which is also another really good Kendrick brother movie. Karen Abercrombie, obviously, is Miss Clara, and others, people from the Tony Evans family. So you have Jonathan Evans, which is I think that's his youngest son. and Priscilla Shire's husband is in it, as well as their son. So that was really cool. But with that said, I'll go ahead and read the synopsis, and then I'll kind of hop into some of my takeaways. So Isaiah Wright has some growing up to do. A year out of high school with no plans for his future, Isaiah is challenged by his single mom and a successful businessman to start charting a better course for his life. Through the biblical discipleship from his new mentor, prayers of his mother, and a prayer warrior named Miss Clara, hint, hint, Isaiah began to discover God's purpose for his life is so much more than he could hope for or imagine. And so I remember going into this earlier at the baptism event. Some of the ladies from our church were like, yeah, I just saw this movie yesterday. I was bawling. And so I went in, I was like, I'm not going to wear makeup because I'm probably going to cry. I actually did not cry. There were some moments where it's more sentimental, probably because there were moments where I could relate in my faith, like, just thanking God in advance for something that you can't even see, just having faith for something. Things like that, where it's like, oh yeah, I can really relate to that. Like, it was very heart touching, but I did not cry. And so my first takeaway was I love how the mentor, the businessman, who was Cameron Arnett, he touched on the cost of discipleship. And so I thought of Luke 14:27 through 28, and I'll go ahead and read that real quick. Jesus says, and whoever does not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. For which of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it? And so again, like, I think people think, okay, well, I'm just going to follow Jesus and life will be better. That's not the case for many. Sometimes it can create rifts in family relations, friendships, and then in some countries, it could even cost you your life. And so that's definitely something to just take into consideration. Obviously, you know that Jesus is like finding that treasure, that you're going to go ahead and sell everything you have to buy that treasure, but it's just things to keep in mind. And then just in general, the importance of discipleship, which has, like, in the last couple of years, just really been something that I've become just so passionate about, especially for young men. And so I just love seeing how it's like this domino effect. Like, one man was discipled by someone, and then from there, he just continued to pour into others. And then from there, they would pour into people. So it was like just this beautiful domino effect. And I think it is sorely needed in the church. Like, we need discipleship, and I think it's lacking in at least the American church that I can speak of. But they're just emphasizing this. I just loved it so much. And the importance of praying for others' salvation. Now, I know it can get really discouraging when you're praying for a friend, you're praying for a family member or a coworker, and there's just no changes. Like, their heart is just hardened, like they're being super rational or whatever the case may be. It can get really discouraging. You want to just like tap out and stop praying for them. But this movie does really emphasize the importance of just keep praying, keep petitioning, keep asking, seeking, knocking the Lord on the door. Because you just never know those seeds that you're planting, like they may be watered by someone else. God gives the increase. You just never know. So just keep praying. If you get nothing else from this movie, keep praying for those people in your life. I think of the widow in the parable that Jesus shared in Luke 18, where she just keeps hounding the judge, and he finally just caves to whatever she wanted because she was just determined to get what she needed. And then I also, of course, think of 1 Thessalonians 5:17, where I think it's Paul wrote that, but pray without ceasing. So next, another takeaway is just the challenge of being a single mom, especially a single mom in the faith, and just the importance of having community, especially like men that you know that can try and like be a type of father figure, and especially for a son's life. But man, it's, you could tell. So Priscilla Shire was Isaiah's mom, and it's like she's trying to fill the role of mother and father, and it just doesn't work. That's just not God's design. I mean, you have to do what you have to do, and people do it, but God's design was for there to be a mother and a father, and especially for young men. Like, there's a reason. And so I love that she has community and that her prayers wound up, I don't want to ruin it, but obviously, like it mentions it in the synopsis, but there's someone that God brings into that young man's life that just helps to really pour into him and teach him what it's like to be a man, you know, all the essential basic things that an absent father doesn't do. And so I also learned some recent statistics that children are more likely to become regular worshipers if their father regularly attends church than their mother. So even if it was like, okay, they do have both parents, if the father goes to church but the mother doesn't, the child is still more likely to be a regular worshiper. Whereas reverse, if the mom regularly goes and the dad doesn't, then the child is less likely to regularly attend church. And so again, it is by design. God knows what he's doing. There is intentionality behind it. There is one scene in particular. I'm going to actually share a little bit of detail on it because Isaiah is now in this discipleship group and he's tested by holding this heavy sword by himself. And you see he's holding it. He's kind of confident in the beginning, but he's holding it for a while. And as time goes on, like he's literally trembling, holding it. And at some point, the men step in and help to carry that weight. And that was beautiful. I love that scene so much. Just the importance of carrying each other's burdens is underrated. And so that was probably my all-time favorite scene. Even my mom was like, I love this. I was like, I know, right? And lastly, I wanted to touch on the power of a praying woman, of a praying wife, of, again, just intercessors, community, because this movie emphasized the discipleship of men, right? But you can see in the background, like there's a significant role of the women praying behind them, like really being that neck, and just, it was awesome. I love that so much. Like there were little scenes where the businessman's being challenged with something in his business and the wife is like, okay, now be praying on the way. Like it was little comments like that, but that stood out to me so much and I just loved it so much. And so yeah, that's the review that I would give. Like if I had to give it a rating, I would say 8 out of 10. What I was going to mention earlier is even though this grossed less than War Room, I think I actually liked it more than War Room for several reasons. One of them, of course, being like the discipleship factor, which I guess they touched on in War Room as well. But I don't know. I just really like this movie. And in conclusion, I would say, yeah, I would highly recommend anyone to go see this movie. I checked yesterday. It's still in theaters. I don't know for how much longer, but definitely go see that before it goes out or goes away. And that's all I have. So I hope you enjoyed this little movie review, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.